The Cabin in the Woods, a mystery that still haunts me. I've always considered myself a rational person. I don't believe in ghosts, curses, or paranormal activity. But what happened to me last fall made me question everything. It was supposed to be a peaceful weekend retreat, a break from the constant buzz of the city. I rented a remote cabin deep in the mountains, hoping to find some solitude. Instead, I found something I can't explain, something that still haunts my dreams every night. I had found the cabin on a lesser-known rental site. No reviews, no detailed descriptions, but it was cheap and isolated, exactly what I was looking for. The drive there was serene at first. The dense forest stretched endlessly in every direction. The golden hues of the late afternoon sun filtered through the trees, creating a picturesque, almost magical atmosphere. But as I drove further, the road became rougher. My GPS flickered, and then lost signal entirely. The deeper I went, the heavier the air seemed to feel, as though the forest was closing in around me. When I finally reached the cabin, the sun was just beginning to set. It was smaller than I expected, with weathered wooden planks and a sagging roof. Something about it seemed forgotten, like it had been waiting for someone to arrive for a very long time. Inside, the cabin was rustic and simple. A small fireplace, an old wooden table with mismatched chairs, and a single bedroom with a creaky bed. The windows were clouded with grime, and the air carried a faint metallic scent. I unpacked my things, lit a fire, and settled into the quiet. At first, the stillness was calming, a welcome escape from the chaos of the city. But as the hours passed, the silence became oppressive. Around midnight, I heard the first sound, a soft, deliberate knock at the front door. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but the knock came again, 3 slow, steady taps. I froze. Who could possibly be out here, in the middle of nowhere, at this hour? When I finally mustered the courage to open the door, there was nothing there. Just the dark forest and the distant sound of wind rustling through the trees. I locked the door and told myself it was nothing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The next morning, I tried to convince myself that I had imagined the knocking. But when I stepped outside, I found something that made my stomach drop. Footprints. They were large and barefoot, leading from the forest to my front door, and then back into the trees. Determined to stay rational, I brushed it off as a prank. Maybe some local kids messing around. To distract myself, I decided to explore the area. The forest was dense and eerily quiet. No birds, no animals, just the sound of my own footsteps crunching through the leaves. About a mile from the cabin, I stumbled upon something strange. A circle of stones, perfectly arranged, with strange symbols carved into them. In the center of the circle was a small, weathered box. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Inside was a piece of paper, yellowed with age, with a single word scrawled in shaky handwriting. Leave. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it, faint whispering, just on the edge of hearing. At first, I thought it was the wind, but as the hours passed, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. They seemed to be coming from inside the cabin. I checked every room, but there was no one there. The whispers followed me wherever I went, like they were coming from the walls themselves. At one point, I thought I heard my name. In a panic, I grabbed my phone to call for help, but there was no signal. Even my flashlight seemed weaker, its beam flickering as though the darkness itself was swallowing the light. By morning, I was ready to leave. But when I stepped outside, my car wouldn't start. The engine sputtered and died, no matter how many times I tried. With no other options, I decided to wait it out. I spent the day pacing the cabin, trying to ignore the growing sense of dread. That's when I found the door. It was hidden behind an old bookshelf, barely visible. I don't know how I hadn't noticed it before. The door was locked, but the key was hanging nearby, as though someone wanted me to find it. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The room was small and empty, except for a single chair in the center. On the chair was a tape recorder. When I pressed play, a man's voice crackled through the speaker. His words sent chills down my spine. "If you're hearing this, it's already too late.